travel showing symptoms. They visited the Mercy San Juan Medical Center emergency department on the evening of June 10th. The county says the child does not pose a risk to the general public outside of those who were at the hospital during that time.
A proposed bill wants to ban law enforcement officers from wearing masks. The No Secret Police Act would require officers to keep their faces visible and wear identifying information unless involved in high-risk situations like SWAT calls or natural disasters. Supporters say the legislation is aimed at restoring the trust of the public. Opponents say it could spark a constitutional fight over federal authority. All right, check this out. The Nathan's Famous Hot Dog Eating Contest comes up in less than a month. The 16-time champ, there he is, Joey Chestnut, says he's coming back after a year away. He made the announcement on social media saying that he is, quote, thrilled to return to Coney Island for the competition, which is always the 4th of July. Joey missed last year's event due to a contract beef with organizers. Thank you, Mark. And says he is excited to get back to doing what he does best, which is eating, and in this case, hot dogs. He's listed at 239. Mark, I would say, and you've been in professional eating.
With him?
With him. I mean, when you eat that many hot dogs, which he's 50 or 60, I wonder what your weight is leaving that thing.
What I want to know when he goes in for his annual physical, is it more comprehensive than most? I don't want to go really deep into that subject.
Wow. Wow, that is.
You wonder what ailments he might have.
Right.
There's a few things that'll be red flagged on his blood report, that's for sure.
Yeah. I also wonder, like, outside of that, do you think he ever eats hot dogs, or does he only do it that day?
Oh, good point.
Because he's probably so tired of them.
I would think when you plow it down like that. But he's a professional eater. Major League Eating is an actual league. So they go around and besides hot dogs, they eat like, asparagus. They plow it down. There's all kinds of foods they plow down.
I'm so curious. Birthday boy, what would you eat in mass?
I would eat fried chicken, probably chicken wings.
And Jordan, what would you take on?
Like grapes.
Grapes! Oh my gosh!
And Rob?
Raisins.
Okay.
Well, I'm
Not
sorry.
good idea.
You're almost sorry you asked that question.
Okay.
Joey Chestnut
grapes.
grew up in Vallejo, so he's a local guy. So go, Joey. Be good if they got Kobayashi back, too. All right, be sure to follow us. Coming up, ABC10, we do another show live at 7 to 8 a.m. streaming. It's a lot of fun. Check it out.
Happy birthday, Walt Great.
All right, we love to start the newscast off with a dramatic shot. This is 7 a.m. streaming live, so we're going to give you that.
It's just breathtaking.
It is at times peaceful, and if you look lower, you could see traffic sometimes, and traffic has been a huge story of late, Rob, but the 79-hour closure, be that as it may, not 75 hours, not 80 hours,
no.
It's over, so people can now move freely about the cabin. Okay, there we go.
It is, too.
Yeah, I know, exactly. So here we are. We're streaming live for you, 7 a.m. We're doing it because we want to, because we enjoy the show. ABC 10 Plus begins now. My name is Walt Gray. Let's introduce the staff meteorologist for the moment. He is fully certified, even in weather. Let's take it over to Rob now for what we expect to be a bit of a warm-up, almost summer-like, yes?
Yes, and that was my real laugh, Walt. That was a good joke.
I know. Finally, I got not to get you to not do a fake laugh.
The real one, the screaming laugh. So let's go ahead and get into our weather pattern. Folks, there's been so many years that we start the heat really early and then it just doesn't let up. And then you're just sort of stuck in it. And you have a few moments here or there. We've had nearly a month of pretty solid, good, consistent weather. And even our hot days, not that hot. So later on, I'll show you the calendar of where we stack up. But it's been good up high and down low. And fairly recently, we were just plagued with daily showers and thunderstorms, hail, lightning, localized flooding. There was just a lot going on in the mountains. That's all dried up. So things are looking really good, not only today, but going into this upcoming weekend. Now, there's a big day in the calendar, one of my favorite days of the year, just because of my early schedule, is the summer solstice. If you're not familiar with this is the first official day of summer where the sun is up for the longest amount of time in general across the world. There's some differences depending on where on the globe that you are. Some days, some places it's a few days earlier, but just for record keeping, this is the day that we focus on because on this Friday, the sun's going to be up at 5:42. It's going to go down at 8:34. And then there's something called last light. That's when the sun goes below the horizon, but we all understand that there's still some light left over. And it's about 9:06 where it finally, that's the last of the light and it starts to get dark. So it just is up forever. But then we start shaving off a few seconds in the beginning. It takes at least a couple weeks before you really start to notice it, but we're moving in that direction once we get to Friday. Now, overall, our trend is this. Very simple. We're going to be warming up. What I like about this is that it's not a one-day gigantic jump. We were upper 80s yesterday. We're going to be low 90s today, then upper 90s tomorrow. So it's a trend that you can at least plan for and expect. But I think the surprising thing for most people is that even though we're going to be hot on our Wednesday with highs in the upper 90s and some of you hitting triple digits tomorrow, we very quickly are going to cool off. I think the surprising thing for most of you is that even though we're starting off in the same way, we've got a little bit of a breeze. It's nice and pleasant out there, upper 50s, some 60s, the 30s up high. That's more or less how we've been starting our days recently. But we're going to hit the highs, and you'll notice it by this afternoon, by about 4 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Highs in the 90s. We've got some 90s for the foothills and some 80s up high. Understandable, tolerable, and then the sun's going to get lower in the sky, but it just doesn't cool down. We're going to be looking at 70s, upper 70s, by the last light. So as it's dark, it's still in the 70s. So that's still rather warm with very little wind, just a touch of a delta breeze. And then approaching midnight, it's still roughly 70 degrees. So this is just something where you cannot rely on the delta breeze just to come in, cool you down. Whole house fans are not very efficient in the evening. You're just going to have to wait, use your air conditioning earlier because it's just not going to cool down that quickly overnight. Same situation with Wednesday, but then look what happens between Wednesday and Thursday. Massive cooling for everybody by more than 10 degrees. We're moving into the low 80s by the first day of summer. Jordan, I've been here for a long time. This has never really quite happened like this in recent memory where we hit the below average temps first day of summer.
Yeah, absolutely amazing weekend weather-wise. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at traffic for your Tuesday morning. Happy Tuesday, by the way. Here's I-5 at Del Paso Road. You can see north and southbound lanes of traffic are moving along. There are a couple of spots that I am seeing some delays this morning, one of which is if you're driving from northbound I-5 to get onto westbound Highway 50 in West Sacramento. You may run into a little bit of slow-moving traffic there just before you hit the Yolo Causeway. Earlier this morning, I was seeing some delays along southbound 99. And then there's a crash here, southbound 5 at southbound 99. It looks like things are improving in terms of delays through that stretch near the Sacramento International Airport. And this is new on my radar. It looks like all but one lane is blocked eastbound Highway 50 and Bedford Avenue in Placerville. So You could see a little bit of a delay if you're driving eastbound on 50 through Placerville. Just keep in mind, traffic will be slow moving through that stretch. Sacramento to Davis, expect about 15 minutes. Davis to Sacramento, about 15 minutes as well. And just a heads up, eastbound Highway 50 back open once again after a 79-hour closure, as Walt mentioned earlier. Davis to Fairfield, about half an hour on I-80 West.
Jordan, thanks. We're following developing news. Let's go back to Old Sacramento. One of the most iconic shops down there in the capital city has been damaged by a fire this morning. Evangeline's. ABC10's Candace Red has been on the scene all morning long. Candace, this all started a little after midnight this morning. How's the damage? What do you know to the moment?
Well, Walt, good morning to you. Well, we now know that the Evangeline's Costume Mansion right here on K Street in Old Sacramento, as you mentioned, is now temporarily closed, giving you a look of the building. Now, this is the deal. You can't really see too much of the damage on the outside. That's because the majority of the damage is on the inside of the building, Walt. And as you shared, this all happened overnight. That was around 1 o'clock this morning. We're told that police were patrolling this area. They spotted the fire and then they reported it immediately. That's when 75 firefighters rushed out here to the scene. Now, when crews got here, fire officials say they experienced what's called cold smoke. Well, that means crews entered the building and saw nothing but a ton of smoke. Fire officials say crews had a hard time finding the fire inside of the building, not to mention all of the merchandise and costumes, creating a tougher situation. But firefighters had to be extremely careful considering there's a basement too. Eventually, crews were able to find the fire on the first floor. We're told it took about 20 minutes to put out the fire. Take a listen.
The challenging thing in these buildings, this is Old Sacramento, this is very old construction, a lot of wood, a lot of material to burn in that building, so crews did an excellent job stopping that fire from spreading throughout the building. But the real kind of hero, I guess you could say, in this were the fire sprinklers that knocked that fire down, or else we could have burned down potentially multiple blocks.
Well, keep in mind the Evangeline's Costume Mansion is a treasure right here in Old Sacramento. The shop has been around since 1974. It offers costumes, gifts, and even a scavenger hunt. Now, after putting out the flames, some firefighters even talked about how they shopped here as a kid. And we know that early this morning, many people will be waking up quite disappointed to learn about the building catching fire. Coming back out to you live, again, we know that firefighters, they're still trying to figure out exactly what happened. How did this fire exactly start? Of course, the Sacramento Fire Department, they will be investigating that matter. And as we learn more, of course, we'll bring that information straight to you. For now, live in Old Sacramento, Candace Red, ABC 10.
Yeah, Candace, we're told this is like the oldest building in Sacramento. You know, it's like back to the 1870s or something. And you mentioned it's the same owner. Family since 1974. So have you ever been there, Candace, for Halloween or anything, just to blow through there to see what they got?
You know what, Walt? I have not. Right, Walt, I have not been here, but I'm telling you, when I did get here to the scene, and for my first time checking out this costume mansion, it really is close to home for so many people. I'm telling you, once firefighters got done doing their duties, they got together and talked about how when they were children, they themselves shopped here and how this shop has been standing here for quite some time. So a lot of different stories to be told with so many different families.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. They literally have everything in Evangeline's, and if there's a fire, that's not necessarily a good thing. There's a lot of flammable stuff in there. Okay, Candace Red, thank you. Candace Red is down at Evangeline's, and hopefully the damage isn't too bad down there. We're also following news of an overnight grass fire burning near a North Highlands neighborhood this morning. Fire crews say it broke out behind homes along Santa Fe Drive near the railroad tracks. Fire was stopped before it could spread to any homes. Investigators are now looking into what caused it to spark. And the next chapter in the governor's legal battle against the Trump administration set to begin today. An appeals court could decide who gets to control California's National Guard. Governor's office filed the lawsuit after the president ordered the National Guard to Los Angeles. This over growing protests in the cities concerning ICE raids. Last week, a judge ruled the president's move to federalize the California National Guard was illegal. But then the case was then put on hold until it can go before an appeals court, which happens today in San Francisco. Regardless of the outcome today, legal experts say this could go all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Today's hearing is expected to start at noon. So stick with us at 7:30 here on ABC 10 Plus. We're going to talk one-on-one with ABC News political director Avery Harper. There she is, about the growing tension between California and the federal government. Also happening today, deliberation set to continue day 7 in the Carlos Dominguez trial. The former UC Davis student faces 2 murder charges and an attempted murder charge. Dominguez has pled not guilty by reason of insanity. The defense and the prosecution say intent is the deciding factor in this case. And the family of a 13-year-old special needs student who died after being restrained will have to wait to learn the fate of the people charged in his death. Everyone involved in the case was in court yesterday, expecting to hear the punishment for the 3 employees who were indicted in the death of Max Benson. Sentencing, though, was delayed after the judge heard the victim's impact statement and then met with counsel for both sides. The judge has now set a new hearing, presumably for sentencing, on the 8th of August. And we are 17 days away from the 4th of July, and if you're planning to shoot any fireworks off, you could be facing even bigger fines. Sacramento City Council is meeting today, and they'll consider a raise on fines for illegal fireworks. The proposed ordinance establishes a fine schedule starting at $1,000 for first offenses, escalating to $10,000 for violations near sensitive sites like schools and parks. The city says they'll track the use of illegal fireworks through a specialized task force. And the City Council in Sacramento also consider whether or not to extend the Sacramento Zoo's lease at Land Park. This coming after the zoo had planned to move to Elk Grove, but that whole thing fell through. If the City Council decides to extend the lease, the Sacramento Zoo will stay right where it is until at least 2028, and probably much longer than that. Growing tension this morning at Stockton City Hall after a new report finds the city's interim manager spent nearly $300,000 without the knowledge of City Council. ABC 10's Gabriel Porras heard about all this and files this report from City Hall.
June 16, 2025.
Behind the cracked walls of Stockton City Hall,
I'm concerned, and the city should be concerned.
division is developing between the city's interim manager and the council that was elected to oversee him.
It's almost as if we now have lost control of that department because there are things happening that we clearly were not aware of.
A report discussed during Vice Mayor Jason Lee's audit committee meeting Monday revealed that in his less than 5 months on the job, interim city manager Steve Colangelo has spent more than $280,000 in contracts, never seen by the council until Monday.
So the dollar amount wasn't necessarily the concern. The concern was transparency, accountability, and making sure that we continue to maintain the trust of our public.
The city manager is allowed to sign contracts below $100,000 without council approval and without a bidding process if he submits a justification form.
I was directed to process it.
According to city staff, one of the city manager's contracts allegedly came with no form, a consulting contract with Lathrop city manager for $99,000.
What I heard today from our procurement director was that when they submitted it with no justification form and the request for why, they were just told to do it. That is not our normal protocol.
Cracked walls on the outside and now fractures on the inside of Stockton City Hall.
It's almost like if you have a babysitter taking care of your house and they remodel your bathroom. So by the time you come back, you're like, you remodeled my bathroom.
The conversation over the interim city manager is far from over. The vice mayor tells us that he plans to bring up some of his concerns at the next full city council meeting scheduled for next week. At Stockton City Hall, Gabriel Porras, ABC 10.
Thank you, Gabriel. We did reach out to the interim city manager for comment. We're still waiting to hear back. We'll let you know when he does, or if. Coming up on ABC 10 Plus, are you planning a trip to Europe soon? There is a new movement causing shutdowns at iconic landmarks from the locals, and the visitors even have to pack a rain jacket. Mark.
Hey, are you planning a trip to space soon? Elio is. Who's Elio? He's the star of the new Pixar animated show headed to theaters Friday. It is awesome. It's a bit E.T., it's a bit Inside Out. Zoe Saldana, Brad Garrett, and a huge cast. Join us this hour as ABC 10 Morning News continues. Don't move.
Okay, welcome back. You are looking live off the coast of Spain this morning. Is that not like premium? This is courtesy of EarthCam. It is just after 4:15 in the afternoon there. The country has long been a hotspot for tourists, but now if you're planning on going there, there's a chance that the locals are going to be spraying you with a water gun, and they're not happy. They're not happy that you're there. Spain is just one of many European countries now seeing a wave of anti-tourism protests, leading to the shutdown of one of the world's most iconic landmarks in France. With that story, ABC's Lionel Moise.
A protest in Paris brought the world's most popular museum to a standstill. Thousands of confused tourists left waiting for hours yesterday after staff at the Louvre refused to open the doors. The exhausted employees rebelling against mass tourism and crippling crowds. The beloved museum, home to masterpieces such as the Mona Lisa and Venus de Milo, now sees nearly 9 million visitors each year, about 25,000 per day on average. But the main entrance, Ayampe's famed pyramid, was built to handle less than half that, only about 10,000 people per day. The constant crush of visitors taking its toll on the gallery. An internal memo warning the museum is wearing out, with water leaks and temperature fluctuations putting some of that priceless art at risk. President Macron recently announcing plans to renovate and build a separate entrance for visitors coming to see the Mona Lisa, but workers want changes sooner. It's not just the Louvre suffering from over-tourism. From Italy to Portugal to Spain, locals are protesting overcrowding and the rising cost of living in destination cities. In Barcelona, it's cooling, actually. Protesters spraying tourists with water guns in hopes of cooling down tourism.
Time now for dollars and cents, and the U.S. may be a month away from a new deal with a major trading partner. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney saying he agrees with President Trump that the two countries need a new trade and security agreement within 30 days. The announcement coming during the president's quick trip to the G7 meeting in Canada. After starting the week on an up note, stock markets may be ready to give some gains back. Stock futures pointing to a lower open this morning after the NASDAQ closed up 1.5% in Monday trading. The S&P climbed 0.9%, the Dow added 0.8%. Oil prices easing Monday with the conflict between Israel and Iran so far not affecting oil shipments. Mitsubishi may be ready to spend billions to get into the American energy market. Reuters says the Japanese conglomerate is in talks to pay around $8 billion to buy the U.S. shale operations from Aethon Energy Management. And shoppers will get even more time to hunt for bargains on Amazon next month. It now says it's expanding its Prime Day sales from 2 days to 4, starting July 8th. All right, all that said, let's check on Wall Street to the moment. The Dow down about 66 points. It was down considerably more when we checked at about 640 this morning. Weak retail sales report is out, and obviously the conflict between Iran and Israel not helping as well. So there it is. It was expected to open down, and it is this morning. All right, coming up, we will have a look at the top stories we're following to help get you out the door. Stay with us. We hope you will. This is an ABC 10 morning news update. I'm Walt Gray. Lawmakers divided on whether police officers should be allowed to wear a mask. The No Secret Police Act, been proposed, would prohibit local, state, and federal law enforcement officers from covering their faces during operations in California. Opponents warn it could spark a constitutional fight over federal authority. Sacramento County officials are tracking a new case of measles. They say an unvaccinated child returned from an overseas trip showed symptoms. The child was seen at Mercy San Juan Med Center June 10th and is now at home recovering. McKinley Park Stockton reopens today just in time for summer. The park had been closed since April of last year. Construction crews gave it a makeover, new play structures, basketball courts, and improvements to the park's swimming pool. A ribbon cutting ceremony will be held at 1 o'clock today.
All right, we are looking at temperatures that are nice and cool, but this is the first day of a warming trend as we're going to hit highs in the low 90s. Now, we've been in the 90s several times this June, but not that many. So this may be a little bit of a different change for you. And the other problem with this is that once we get warm this afternoon, it's just going to take a long time to cool down into the evening. We've been routinely hitting the 60s by about 11 o'clock at night, and I think we're going to struggle to get below 70 by about midnight or so. One more day of heating near 100 tomorrow, then nice 80s for the weekend.
All right, southbound traffic right by the I-80 connector definitely starting to slow down. You can see that behind me there. Traffic going in toward downtown Sacramento slow. Through South Sacramento, really from Elk Grove in toward downtown, very slow moving traffic. Some pockets through the Land Park area also slow moving. And then southbound Business 80, another place we're seeing delays. Finally, right here, Highway 50, eastbound lanes are now back open.
The morning news continues. Thank you all for joining us. And I'm joined today by ABC News political director Avery Harper. Avery, thank you so much for dialing in with us today. Been looking forward to meeting with you. A lot happening globally and nationally. Let's start off with this one. California leadership, obviously, as predicted, at odds with President Trump. Immigration, climate change, electric vehicles. Does California have any other options other than to sue the federal government or eventually the feds win?
Well, we have seen the fight between California's Democratic officials and the Trump administration really escalate in the past few weeks. Like you mentioned, some of those ICE raids. We've also seen the National Guard activity in Los Angeles. And then we saw those resolutions signed by President Trump trying to block the California's effort to phase out some of these gasoline-powered vehicles. And yes, we've seen California really lose out on those battles. But what I think we can anticipate is that we're going to continue to see some of these battles waged in court. We know that Gavin Newsom, the governor in California, has set aside millions of dollars in legal aid to try and fight the Trump administration, where he says he believes that the Trump administration has violated the state's rights.
You mentioned Newsom and Trump, of course. They've been at loggerheads for years now. The president seems to view Newsom as sort of the head of the Democratic snake running for president perhaps in 2026. Do you believe that has something to do with it?
Well, listen, I think, like you've mentioned, both Governor Newsom and Trump have been at odds for quite some time. And the governor has really tried to position himself as a really prominent anti-Trump voice. And I think the visibility that he's gotten because of the protests and because of the National Guard has helped him to build a national profile as he could potentially run for president in 2028. We do know that anti-Trump sentiment across the country, he is only just one of those anti-Trump voices. And that is a unifying force for Democrats as they try to take back some power, and not only looking ahead to the presidential campaign in 2028, but also in midterms for 2026.
Talk about reaction. What did you see as reaction when Senator Alex Padilla was sort of manhandled in that Kristi Noem press conference? Did reaction to that basically fall along party lines?
You know, perhaps unsurprisingly, as many things in Washington land, they do land along party lines. And yes, we saw almost universally Democrats condemn Senator Padilla's removal from that press conference with DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. And we saw Republicans really say that Padilla should have identified himself better. And so, yes, unsurprisingly, we did see that fall along party lines.
The president also has mentioned he wants to ramp up deportations in what he calls Democrat cities and states. What would the fallout be politically to target states and cities from one specific party?
Well, listen, I'll tell you, I've been talking to mayors across the country, and there's a lot of fear. The fear is really palpable about what the Trump administration could do. Not only the notion, the possibility of sending in the National Guard or the continued protest movement as we've seen over the past weekend and in Los Angeles, but also there's fears about the possibility of the Trump administration trying to revoke funding from some of these Democratic-led cities and states. And so I know that that is something that mayors across the country are bracing for. They are consulting with legal counsel to see what it is they can do in preparation for whatever comes down the pike from the Trump administration.
Avery, before I let you go, one more quick question. An appeals court in San Francisco is expected to hear at noon today the situation regarding whether the National Guard can be used in California without approval from the governor. Do you see this going to the Supreme Court all the way?
Well, I think we have to wait and see what happens in that court decision today in order to see what is going to happen in the future. Listen, I think that this is a fight that the governor and state leadership in California is willing to continue to wage and to push for because they believe that the state's autonomy is at risk. And as we heard Governor Newsom say in some of his remarks last week, he believes that democracy is at stake. So I think this is not a fight that's going away anytime soon.
Avery Harper, we thank you, the ABC News political director, joining us this morning. Avery, thank you. Do appreciate your time. All right, let's take it over to Jordan now for a check on the roadways at 7:36.
Yeah, this morning we are seeing a little bit of slowing right now. This is I-5 at Interstate 80. So if you're driving from Natomas, maybe even from the airport southbound on I-5, expect to see some delays. This is at the I-80 connector. So you can see northbound traffic looks a lot better than the southbound side. Throughout Sacramento, starting to see things kind of ramping up this morning. And something of note, eastbound Highway 50 back open once again between I-80 and Jefferson Boulevard in West Sacramento. So for more on the current traffic conditions, let's go ahead and get over to Officer Trista Drake with CHP. Good morning, Trista.
Hi, good morning. I definitely see that traffic picking up, like you mentioned, specifically coming in 80 from Citrus Heights through the Cap City Freeway split. That's a little bit slow. Starting to see it slow down northbound 99 as well. Like you mentioned, the crash on 50 lanes are open, and on surface streets, Bradshaw Road at Old Placerville Road, we do have a 4-vehicle crash there with emergency crews responding. No lanes blocked. As you head down through Stockton, that's looking really good. 5 and 99 are both in the green. Modesto, much the same. It's pretty quiet there. And in the Tracy Triangle, just seeing that slow down from Tracy into Dublin. It's about a 60-minute commute, so in the red, a little bit slow this morning. Jordan, back to you.
Thank you, Officer Trista Drake.
All right, so thank you so much. We really appreciate all the information. And I got to tell you where we're going weather-wise. We're going to see some changes here. Now, they are somewhat subtle in the very early afternoon, but you're going to notice it by later on as we start to move into a new regime of high temperatures. It's going to get hot again, but it only lasts 2 days. And considering that it's June, these are among the longest days of the year. To get away with another cooling trend into the weekend, into the 80s, is just remarkable. But hey, guess what? That's where we're going. We also have an elevated fire danger today, especially tomorrow, because we're going to be watching things dry out, and it's going to be a little bit breezy. So watch for grass fires, not massive ones because we don't have a red flag warning, but certainly if something starts, it is going to grow quickly with the weather that we have in the next couple of days. Now, I'm starting with this because I think that this is just so important. You will rarely find a June that looks like this. And this is our reality, our recent reality. We now have more days so far that are either at our average or below average compared to our above average days. And you know what? The above average ones, a lot of upper 80s, low 90s, only one day at 95. That is not bad. It has been really good, and the wind has been saving us each and every evening. Now, this is the time of the year when we start to see the longest days of the year, and on Friday, which is the summer solstice, the sun is going to come up at 5:42 in the morning, go down at 8:34. We all know that there's lots of light even after sunset. It's just light forever, early and late. But by the time we get to fall, look how much it changes. So there's a lot of things that are going to happen over the long, hot summer, but each and every day you're actually losing daylight, even though the average temperatures are scooting on up into the low 90s. Okay, this is where we are near term. High pressure is doing its thing. We're going to be warming up. One thing that's really good about this pattern is that even though we're going to get hot in the next couple of days, low 90s today, upper 90s tomorrow, we're not seeing extreme fire conditions because each and every evening we have just a touch of a delta breeze. It's not very strong. It doesn't last very long. It's not going to change your life, but it is happening. And there are some weather patterns where we just have all day northwest wind, and in the evening it's either completely calm or they keep going. That's a bad scenario, and we don't have that going for at least the near future. And the other thing too is that the winds, they are going to be in the background trying to help us, but they just can't do that much. For example, yesterday we were in the 70s around sunset. It was really nice, just absolutely great time to be outdoors. I think I saw literally every single one of my neighbors walking their dogs. But tonight it's just going to be a lot warmer. So the wind is trying to work, it's trying to do its thing, but we're looking at 80s at sunset, and the 70s are just going to last well into the evening. In fact, I don't think we get to the 60s until about midnight tonight. So a much warmer evening is basically the trend that we're looking at starting tonight, last tomorrow, but then we're going to start to see things change. Early this morning at 7:40, 50s to start things off, highs in the 90s. Records are way above 100. We don't want any part of that. And one thing worth considering, again, because of the warmer evenings, look how slowly we cool down. At the start of the A's game against the Astros, and this goes, by the way, for any Valley spot. I know many of you are not going to the A's games, but you understand. Sunset 85, and it doesn't really move into the 70s until 10, 11 o'clock at night. So it's just going to take a long time. Tomorrow, nowhere near records, we can say that, but it is going to be hot. Hottest day of June so far will be tomorrow afternoon, and then a 10-degree drop in temperatures by Thursday. First day of summer, highs in the low 80s, and then even better on Saturday.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate you. All right, now to continuing coverage of a question that's dividing California lawmakers. Should police officers be allowed to wear a mask? They are now, and that question stems from something called the No Secret Police Act, a name that's already stirred some debate. Supporters and critics see this bill from completely different sides of the badge. ABC10's Gajpal Sangha went to the state capitol to ask questions.
At times, even wearing army fatigues, where you can't tell are these law enforcement officers or a vigilante militia.
Democratic State Senator Scott Wiener and Jesse Adeguin says it's about restoring public trust by making sure officers, especially federal ones, in the light of the events in Los Angeles, can't operate anonymously on California soil.
People are afraid. Families are being torn apart. In addition, we are seeing people who are impersonating law enforcement officials. And so this is also to try to discourage these imposters.
The bill would require officers to keep their faces visible and uniforms marked with names or badges, except in certain high-risk situations like SWAT calls or disasters.
It is important that we put this in place now.
But critics like Assemblymember Tom Lackey, who was a retired CHP sergeant, says the bill sends the wrong message and could even violate federal jurisdiction.
And to call it the No Secret Police Act, I think that promotes distrust. It's an us versus them environment. There are a number of people that want to retaliate against some of these officers that have their face covered because they become victims of doxing and targeting by criminal professionals.
A prominent California Police Association says this could impact their undercover work.
If you have a bone to pick with the federal government, with how the federal law enforcement is, then you need to go over there and deal with it with them.
Opponents say when it comes to local and state officers, they are already required by law to have identifiable information and department insignia on their uniforms. Sacramento attorney Mark Reichel, who has taken on federal cases, says federal officers are supposed to identify themselves, but adds there is no clear federal rule that allows ICE to wear masks.
Is there a conflict between the federal law and the state law? And if there is, the federal law prevails. If there isn't, is it too much of an infringement on federal law enforcement? And that's going to be the big question. In light of the fact their own rules require them to identify themselves anyway, there's a good chance this law actually may be upheld in California only for ICE agents who operate in California.
Gajpal Sangha on that story. The acting director of ICE is defending his officers using face masks, telling the Associated Press they wear it to protect themselves from death threats. Coming up on ABC 10 Plus, yes, we are live streaming a year of changes at the Stockton Park about to be unveiled today. What your family can expect as the location reopens for what's sure to be a busy summer. You're busy too this summer, Mark.
I'm saying it. Pixar, the most Academy Award-winning animation studio of this century, now has Academy Award nominee Zoe Saldana. Along with that, a star-studded cast, Brad Garrett and more. Elio is the story of a boy who wants to be abducted and gets abducted. We'll talk to Elio and Zoe next.
he gets his own open with music and animation. You should probably win an Emmy for a promo or something.
What?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Time for Take a Look. There's a new Pixar film out. It's called Elio. ABC 10's Marcus Allen is here to talk about Elio and probably a whole lot more.
Yeah, pretty excited about this. You know, I'm always talking about the fact that right here in our own backyard, Emeryville, we have the most Academy Award-winning animation studio this century. They're at it again. Summer is here. Kid movie is here. It's Elio, specifically the story of this kid that wants to get abducted. And it happens. I got a chance to catch up with the kid and his Academy Award-winning nominated, that is, co-star Zoe Saldana, to talk about Elio and his aunt. Take a look. All right, so you've gone to space at Star Trek, you've gone to other worlds, Avatar, Guardians. How would you describe this new version?
The Communiverse?
Yeah.
Really colorful, very beautiful, and I feel that the people there in the Communiverse are nicer.
All right, so like your character, I would be the same way. If aliens came for me, I would be like, get me up there sooner!
Exactly.
Come on! If that was happening for you, what would you grab from Earth to represent humanity?
I would say my passport, but I would know later that I didn't need it.
You're gonna need a real ID.
A real ID, exactly. Your face.
How about you?
Ooh, to represent humanity? That's a hard one. I think maybe like a burger. I feel like that's such like a classic US or like Earth thing.
It's so true.
And I don't know if like aliens eat food or if they eat humans, but I think like if they eat food, I think they would love that burger.
I'm with you. If any other galaxy discovered a hamburger, they're gonna protect Earth for the rest of their lives.
Amen.
So true. Elio, now playing, that is as of Friday. You know what else is Friday? Our half-hour special dedicated to all things Elio. I got to sit down with one of my favorite comedians of all time, Brad Garrett, who we have to edit extensively to make the cut.
Even for Take a Look?
Yeah, he's pretty spicy.
Okay.
That guy has no filter whatsoever, which is why I love him and love you too. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I don't celebrate birthdays anymore, but thank you for
Well, let's just say, while we're on the subject, if aliens came and you're going to give them a burger, from what Sacramento establishment would you give them?
Right off the top, I've got to think Willie's, because
Yeah.
Willie's is reasonably close to us, and they give it's a good deal for the triple hammer.
Right.
You know, you get a lot of burger for the price.
Back in the day, people don't realize we didn't have In-N-Out in Sacramento, but we had Willie's. It's kind of the same vibe,
I agree,
but better.
I agree 1,000%. So, okay, Take a Look, 9:30 on Friday morning.
Happy birthday to you.
All right, thank you, bro.
Appreciate it.
All right, have a good one. There he goes, off to do another interview. All right, summer officially starts Friday. People in Stockton will have a chance to spend it at a remodeled McKinley Park, the one in Stockton. There was one in East Sacramento, too. We're talking Stockton. This one's been closed since April of last year in Stockton. Construction crews doing the makeover. There's new play structures, basketball courts, and improvements to the park's swimming pool. Grand opening will be attended by Stockton city leaders. It's happening today at 1 p.m. Rob is promising good swimming pool weather for 1 o'clock in Stockton. Okay, the A's back in town following a week on the road. They started their series against the Houston Astros last night, and here's how this whole thing ended up. Rookie Nick Kurtz for the A's. This one has a chance to go, and it's gone. That gives the A's an eventual 3-1 win. The A's have won 4 straight, first time this year. They'll host Houston again tonight at Sutter Health Park. Basketball, did you watch? Indiana Pacers, Oklahoma City Thunder, Game 5 in OKC. OKC jumped out quick, never looked back. They won 120-109. Tyrese Halliburton, the former King, had to leave the game in the first quarter with a calf strain. This is where it happened. He did game it out and come back, but he only scored 4 points in the entire game. He obviously wasn't on his A game.
I mean, it's NBA Finals. It's the finals, man. I've worked my whole life to be here, and I want to be out there to compete. Help my teammates any way I can. I was not great tonight by any means, but it is what it is, and got to be ready to go for Game 6.
Game 6 will be played in Indianapolis Thursday night. We will have that game right here on ABC10. All this month, ABC 10 celebrates LGBTQ plus pride. And we talked with an advocate in Placerville. Becca Barry is the house audio engineer at the Green Room Social Club. It's a bar and music venue. She's also a transgender woman. She organizes a monthly event called the Queer Community Social.
To see everybody when this room gets like the crowd in here, and they're all smiling and like they're talking to one another and meeting new people, it just brings my heart so much joy.
Coming up tonight at 6:30 on ABC10's To The Point, Becca will share her journey of becoming her true self, the challenges, faces, and what motivates her to build a community that's welcoming to all. Coming up, we'll have the top stories we're following this morning, plus one last look at your weather and your traffic. This is an ABC 10 morning news update. I'm Walt Gray. An overnight fire sparked in the iconic Evangeline's building in Old Town Sacramento. Fire crews tell us the sprinkler system was huge, keeping the fire from spreading. But smoke and water damage in the building is extensive. No word yet on what caused this to start. Started a little bit after 1 this morning. Sacramento City Council could increase fines for illegal fireworks in a meeting today. The proposed increase would include fines up to $10,000, depending on where the fireworks, the illegal ones, are being launched from. An appeals court will be hearing Governor Newsom's lawsuit against the Trump administration today concerning the president's use of the National Guard in Los Angeles. No matter how the appeals court rules, this case is expected to go up to the Supreme Court. Today's hearing is expected to start at noon. Rob.
Okay, this has been a really nice stretch of weather, and we're going to get some hot days thrown in here, and then we're going right back to the 80s just in time for the weekend. So this month of June has been absolutely great so far. Okay, we've got temperatures that have now moved into the 60s for everybody. Highs are moving up, folks. We've got highs in the low 90s, and we're going to start to see some triple digits tomorrow. Now, most of you will be a little bit below that, about 97, 98 or so, but if you're in Colusa or Marysville, Yuba City, Oroville, some of those spots, definitely making a run at 100 for tomorrow. The evening is just slow to cool. We're hanging on in the 70s for most of the evening until about midnight or so, and then we're going to see widespread cooling by Thursday, low 80s for the weekend.
Okay, this morning you can see some slow-moving traffic. This is along Interstate 5, right by the I-80 connector this morning. So you can see traffic is really moving at a crawl there on the southbound side. Northbound traffic looking clear this morning until you really get toward the Sacramento International Airport. Looks like starting at about Metro Air Parkway, we start to see a little bit of a delay. Northbound 99 through South Sacramento, really all the way from Elk Grove into downtown, we are seeing delays. And after the split in North Highlands, all the way to about 160 there near Exposition Boulevard is where it starts to get a little bit better. Highway 50 slow moving, and then we have one crash in the Placerville area that's continuing to cause delays, eastbound 50 and Bedford Avenue.
All right, here's what's next this morning. Look at that. The sign is up. At 8 o'clock, California GOP, a new era. ABC 10's Alex Bell goes inside the 2025 California GOP Spring Convention. At 8:30, California Democrats, a pivotal period. At the California Democratic Party Convention, all eyes already on 2026 and who the candidates are to be the next governor. Your California Life is at 9. Then after that, the iconic show at 9:30. It's called Take a Look. It's hosted by, we just call him MSA.
I hate that guy.
All right. A look at a look at How to Train Your Dragon, which I remember taking the kids to see that.
Live action now with Gerard Butler.
Not Gerard Depardieu.
No.
Hey, on behalf of all of us, beef jerky.
Oh, thank you.
Wow.
$200 worth from the break room.
Yes, and this is for?
Your birthday.
Oh, okay.
Blow out
Thank
the
you.
candles.
All right. Thank you all. You're all very kind. I do appreciate that. All right, we're going to take it to the Truckee Tahoe Airport, right? And we're going to talk over that Skycam for a couple of minutes, right?
There we go.
Marcus Allen has pulled up a jet for my birthday.
That's also for you.
Yes, we're going to drive to Truckee and then fly back here. Is that what I'm led to believe?
Tom Cruise is the pilot.
That is a beautiful shot, and the weather is absolutely stunning up there, right, Rob?
Mm-hmm.
Bye.